Hi, Professor. This is my second assignment, the messenger assignment, and I decided to use three methods to implement my solution and a main method. I want to start with the send message, which takes in a socket, uses a standard input to read the line and stores it in message, and then sends it through a while loop, which continuously sends the message until something like the enter key is just pressed and a blank message is sent, and then that will be the end of the message, and then the socket can close. The messenger method, that'll also take the socket in, and it will target the send message method while using the socket and create a thread between them and store that in send. And the send dot set daemon just makes sure that it makes sure that the threads won't join together and make a really messy message output. Send.start, this will just start the communication between the two. This try block, the message will be received, and it will be have to converted, and then sent through a while loop, which decodes, and it'll keep going through the message until it hits an end, and it'll keep printing that message with this print. The only time that this while loop would really be broken is when the enter button is pressed just like before, and um, everything can be terminated, the socket can be closed. And we threw in this except OS error because if the program isn't running correctly, it shouldn't continue to run incorrectly. Onto the get arguments method. Um, this is probably one of the most difficult ones I came across just implementing, but once you break it down, you definitely see there's a clear train of thought. So I stored localhost in the address um, just because I wanted to start off acting as a client, and if you're the client, your server status is going to be false. It gets the options and it gets the arguments through this try block, and if there's any errors getting those options or arguments, um, the program will terminate. And if the length of those arguments is less than 1, that's just an invalid input, and the program will terminate as well. The for loop right here, this for I in options, if I 0 equals dash L, that is looking or checking, to be exact, to see if it's the client or the server. So if it's dash L, it's a server, and the server status should be changed to true. And if that continues, then the port should be saved as the first argument, but you need to make sure that's an int, because you can have an error to where it's not an int and that's not a valid port. So you'd be communicating, you wouldn't be communicating, you'd be trying to communicate to a non-existent port. So we have this except value error that basically would kick you out or terminate the program. If the length is greater than 1, then the address should be just the second argument, and it will return the server status, the port, and the address. For my main method, you can see right here that it takes in the 3 variables that get arguments returned, and it uses those to create a socket. And if you're the server, if that is true, if the server status is true, then it'll set the socket options, and it'll bind it to that port. It'll listen for communication and find connection through the .listen, and we store that connection in the socket connected, and we accept the address in order to just keep accepting data. And since we already have this stored in a variable, we can close the socket now and push that variable through the messenger, which will start the whole process. This else block, the whole process of communication, I lost my wording. But the else block is if it's going to be from the client side. So it connects through the address and the port, which, the address would be the local host. And if there's a connection refused between the client, which tends to happen sometimes, it'll just terminate the program. Otherwise, it'll just start the messenger and start communication. That is my second assignment, and I hope you enjoy it.